everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences.
Get on with it.
Right, the most overdue review on this entire channel. Alderac Games sent me 2 games to review over the last the last 4 or 5 months. They sent me Tiny Towns, you can go check out that review, and they sent me Space Base with the Command Station add-on. And sadly, Essen and the top 100 meant that I just had no time to get this fully played and get it properly reviewed, until recently. So apologies to Alderac for taking so long to get this review out, but hopefully it'll be worth it for you. But you know, there was just bad timing, that's all it is. But I want to talk about this game because this was a bit of a slower burn for me. I played it a couple of times a while back, friends had it, and I had thoughts on it. But then I didn't really play it much since, and I saw these expansions come out, these Saga expansions like Terra Proxima and Shy Pluto, and Tom Vassell has it as one of his favourite games, and I like John D. Clare's stuff, for the most part. He's had a couple of duds, but, you know, I've got Edge of Darkness, I've got Mystic Veil, I give Dead Reckoning some respect, you know, it's a bit too long for me, but, you know, I do give Dead Reckoning some praise. You know, John D. Clare does some cool stuff I like. So I was keen to give this one a much more thorough going over. So Space Base is a pretty simple dice game, effectively, taking from the region of Catan, in a sense. Basically what will happen is that you have your player board with some tracks for income and victory points and such, but what you have is a bunch of these ships. They'll be laid out in total across here, all 12 of them, and they've got blue and red segments on them. The idea is that they correspond to numbers on dice. The active player will roll 2 of their dice, and the number will be what they trigger off on 1 or 2 of their ships. They can basically go, right, let's say I've rolled a 5 and a 3. Well, I could trigger my 5 and my 3, or I could combine the 2 and make 8. And whatever card they trigger, they get the rewards in blue, and this can be get money, victory points, charge cubes which power up abilities, do some shenanigans. You know, you'll be able to upgrade your ships from basics to like level 1, level 2, and eventually level 3 ships. And they get progressively more powerful, but of course require more money and get more expensive. But the other players aren't just sitting there doing nothing. What they do is, based on what you rolled, they try and incorporate those numbers into what they've got on their board for the red segments. So after you've upgraded your ship, the ship effectively goes underneath your board, or underneath the underneath the board, underneath the cards, say, and it basically becomes your own ability that triggers on someone else's turn. So let's say somebody rolled, let's say a 6 and a 2 or whatever. You know, my 2 might have something nothing in it, but my 6 has 2 income in it on the red segment. So I can assign the 6 and get something on someone else's turn. Aesthetics wise, Space Base does a good job at making this look very spacey. It's got artwork that almost kind of reminds me of a more cartoony version of Star Rounds. But you get these very cool, like, custom speckly dice with, you know, vibrant colors and ships for the ones. These cards get a little bit of taking used to, but they are cool. They've got nice colourful artwork on them. There's lots of different designs for these ships, multiple colours. The graphic design is clear as to what's the income and what's the abilities, although more on that in a minute. But it does look very colourful and vibrant on the table. Now, to get the command station out of the way, this is not the box Space Base comes in. It comes in a smaller box. This is basically a storage system. You buy it as an expansion. It comes with sleeves to cover all your cards. It comes with, I think, a few other cards, but mainly it's just a case of now I have a box with an insert and some sleeves, and I can now hold a lot of content for the game. I mean, I actually have the expansions for Terra Proxima and Shy Pluto in here. I have not touched them, so I can't review these, but these weren't provided by Alderac. I've just bought these on my own free will, and at some point I'll try these out, whether solo or with people, but you know, everything fits in the box. But it is quite a pricey box, and so you kind of need to make that decision. Do you want a pricey box to hold everything, or are you happy just stuffing everything into the original box? Do you need sleeves, or have you already bought your own sleeves? Make that decision and decide whether you want this. But everything else component-wise, I love these dice. Cubes, yeah, whatever cubes, but they're necessary, and they are at least translucent plastic-coloured cubes, so they do look cool. Everything's just got that kind of light-hearted, cartoony feel, and it looks very pretty. The rules are a little bit hit and miss in places. The rule books, by the time you've got the command station, also feel a little bit disjointed, because I've got one rule book here for command station which has, as far as I can tell, all the rules for the game, but then the main game comes with the revised field manual now, because it's been updated because I had a lot of FAQ problems before, which also has the setup and how to play. So which book am I supposed to follow here? It's kind of confusing. And honestly, as much as these books are fine, you might want to go on Board Game Geek and print yourself out a little reference to help. I mean, this is the one I've got. It's a pretty straightforward one, and it has everything I need to know about a bunch of abilities, setup, gameplay, activating charges and stuff. You know, it's a pretty cool reference aid. But it's not a difficult game to learn. You just might need to maybe read through the book once or twice and stick with one book. Certainly don't read multiple books, but this one should be able to get you going just fine. Now the game scales from 2 to 5 players, 7 with the command station. I cannot think for the life of me why you would play this game above 4 players, frankly. 5 if you really must, but 6 or 7, that is ridiculous. We might think, well, hang on, I'm getting something on everybody else's turn, right? Occasionally, yes, but the game is still going to drag on like crazy. This is a game I don't really want to play with more than 4 players. It just outstays its welcome. It is effectively a dice rolling game at the end of the day. How long do you want to play one of those? However, now the book incorporates something called a Lightspeed variant. In fact, it's become so popular, it's now in the front of the main rulebook. It says not recommended for your first game. I beg to differ on that front, frankly, but basically it gives you some starting money and you can use it to get some initial ships, and it basically gets you, it sort of propels you a little bit further in the game. Honestly, if I'm teaching this game, I am throwing the Lightspeed variant in every single game without question, and honestly, if you want me to play your space base, we will use this variant or I won't play it, because I think the game does struggle from outstaying its welcome a bit, especially with 4 or more players. Lord knows why you want to play this with 6 or 7, but that's for you to do, I certainly don't. But the real fun of this game comes from the idea that you are combo building with a lot of these abilities. I mean, these abilities can range from very simple, like just get a bit of money, get a few victory points and that. But then you've got weird ones where it activates stuff to the side of them. So even if your number 10 is not very good, you could make your number 9 really awesome and then put something like this on the 10 so that you've got more chances to hit the number 9 spot. But then after that, you've got the activation charge cubes where when you power them up, they do cool things. You can sort of manipulate your dice, you can trigger more effects, but then you get later on and it's like 9 victory points for a card. That's insane. But it's got to go in your 12 spot. How often am I going to roll a 12? Well, there's abilities that let you move stuff to the side or re-roll dice. It's really cool. But then on top of that, you've got lots of income spots. You've also got the, claim multiple cards, so you can trigger the ability and get more ships without having to buy them. But then there's other weird stuff in here, like swap your 5 and 8 sector cards. So 2 cards on your board just switch. You can create some really bonkers combos in this. And it's not like the abilities are crazy difficult. There's certainly a few in this game eventually that do get a little bit fiddly, particularly the ones where it involves triggering something to the left or the right. Those take a little bit of like, oh, hang on a minute, can we just stop a minute and just work this out? But once you get past that bit, most of these are not difficult to work out. But it's satisfying having your board and going, oh, let's see, I'm going to create that one there, that one there. Well, let's shift that one up there. And I'll put this ship on there. You know what? I'm going to upgrade this ship as well. Now I've got this really cool one that if somebody rolls a 7 on their turn, I get a ton of money. But, I'm also going to have this one here, and it just feels very satisfying to pull off these combos. The combos allow for different strategies, because I can try and focus entirely on income and just buy really good ships. But then I could be focusing on grabbing some victory point ships. Yeah, I won't be able to buy many ships, but if I can roll enough victory points quick enough to get to 40 before you get your engine built, maybe that will work. All the charge cube abilities and all the shifting spots and swapping sectors and that, it does allow for some different strategies to form, although you are playing very tactically. It's based on what comes up in the display and what cards you acquire. So you're not doing this from the start of the game, you're seeing what comes out and going, oh, that looks juicy, I fancy a little bit of that. And that's always a very fun feeling to have in any game. There's not much else to say. Space Base is just a very fun, pretty light dice game with some cool little twists to make it not only satisfying from a combo building perspective, but also satisfying from a downtime perspective. Yes, I say that if you play this with 5 or more players, this game outstays its welcome, and I still believe that's way too many players. but it's possible. You can do it. But anywhere up to 4 players is not going to take too long, and if you do want to play with 4 or 5 players on a regular basis, well then throw in the Lightspeed variant and you will at least get off to a better, quicker start. But the rules are not complicated. I mean, the rulebook is pretty small and relatively clear now. It didn't used to be. And you can print out a reference sheet to help you in that regard. There's expansions, as I mentioned, with Shy Pluto and Terra Proxima to make the game, even more involved later on down the road. But I think for the price you pay, which is not particularly high, for the base set of Space Base, you're getting a really good fun dice chucker. I enjoy this. I remember being kind of ho-hum on it when I first played it a couple of times, but they had a lot of players and they weren't using the Lightspeed variant. As soon as I threw that variant in here and got to control the player counts, it really did shine. This is a game I really do enjoy. Not quite to the levels of someone like, say, Tom Vassal, but it's going to grow on me. Maybe it will get better. Maybe with these expansions it's going to rise up the charts. But for now, I'm giving this one a solid 8 out of 10. It's a great game, and it's one that's going to stay on the shelf in the alderac section, and I'm going to try and get it out more often and eventually work out how to play these, whether with a group of people or solo if I can. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, please thumb it up on YouTube and on Board Game Geek, but most of all, let me know your comments down below. I want to know your thoughts on Space Base with and without the variant, with the load of players and without. But also tell me about these expansions, Shy Pluto, Terra Proxima. Let me know your thoughts. Have I got stuff to look forward to with these? Can I play these solo? Let me know your thoughts. Don't spoil anything, because I know these are cut story elements, but I would like to know your thoughts on these, and I would certainly be grateful for the advice. But base set alone, I still think it's great, so let me know your thoughts in general. What cool stories have you got to tell with Space Base? So by all means, check out more content on the channel, including my ho-hum review of Encyclopedia, and my slightly angry review of Super Club. By all means, if you want to be entertained, go watch that video. But until next time, take care, and remember, regardless of whether you're wanting something on my turn or your turn, it's still only a game. Bye for now.